She was the director of this.
Good evening, everyone. Are we live? Yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody who is watching online as well. For those who haven't been here before, we are a weekly networking event where we offer presentations on the subjects of technology and design. Tonight we have Ismini Christakopoulou here, a presenter found by Jelena from Caravan Cultura. So this is a collaboration evening. It will be about grief and mourning and how it can help the design process. This will be the last Innovation Café before our summer break, so we won't be here all of August, but on September 1st, that's a Thursday already, we will be back again. For now, enjoy the presentation. Jelena will do a little talk introduction first, and without further ado, I'll give it over to you two.
Thank you so much, Anouk. Good evening, dear colleagues and friends. I just want to say that my name is Jelena. Maybe I will just stand here. It's easy for everybody. My name is Jelena Haritonova. I'm a founder of Caravan Cultura Create Agency. I'm a partner of Kazerne, and I was just explaining today to Ismini that I know this place for more than 20 years. I started to come here when it was Het Theater Klein. Maybe some of you know about this one. So it has been a creative hotspot in Eindhoven for many, many years, and I'm happy to be a partner. And every month I'm inviting very special people who are near and dear to me. We are choosing special presentation according to our taste, my taste, so to say. And tonight I have a dear colleague and friend, Ismini, who is here. And you know, it was very interesting because a couple of weeks ago I was passing by. We're actually neighbors, I have to disclose. You probably know the Smallenhaven, Molenveld, and I realized, oh my God, one of the hotspots, one of the ateliers, which used to be empty, is not empty anymore. And what do I see in the vitrines? Beautiful textiles, beautiful kind of textures of soap. And then I was attracted by candles, small, thin candles which were inside of the space. And I had to remember candles which I see quite often in the Orthodox churches. And I knocked the door, I came in, and Ismini introduced herself, and we had this first wonderful conversation. I was almost speechless to go outside, because indeed it was about memories, childhood memories, about how, you are losing someone like our grandmothers. I think it was a kind of, I had to draw parallels. And it was the most striking moment. So we see each other. I was recently at the opening of the studio, which is wonderful because the studio is really in the center of Eindhoven. And I realized this story should be told, because design, as we know it, we can use it for any kind of purposes in our life, and also how we nourish, how we deal with the aftermaths of whatever we have, trauma, death, etc., how we nourish it, how we heal it. I'm very happy to give the floor to Ismini. Ismini, the floor is yours. We are all ears. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anouk. Thank you, Jelena. Thank you all for being here. My name is Ismini Christakopoulou, and I'm the founder and architect of Minimuc. Minimuc is an award-winning, internationally operating design studio based in Eindhoven. Recently relocated. It's actually been only a couple of months that I moved from Amsterdam. So rooted in architecture, what we deliver is highly personalized spaces and handcrafted, meaningful objects. What is paramount in our practice and approach is the feeling of contentment. We really want our clients, but also ourselves, to enjoy the process and the final outcome, because for us it's not just design, it's not just architecture or interiors or objects, it's real life. And our mission, our studio's mission, my personal mission is to deliver being proud of and love to live in results. So our motto, our core values, or how do we do that, is by listening, caring, and creating. Couple of words before we jump into today's topic about Minimuc. The studio started in 2015. Back in the days, we were in Vienna, Austria, and we had the chance to exhibit in some of the most prestigious museums and design venues throughout the world, showcasing the work results of both our clients but also ourselves. Here you can see a couple of them, a short selection of them. 2018, the studio is relocated to the Netherlands, and then the focus changes completely. Instead of trying to communicate ideas and specialize ideas, we started expressing our love for natural materials, the local techniques, and the touch and feel of things, which this led organically or naturally, being involved with mostly residential projects, either there were renovations, restorations, and we had again the great honor, and it was beautiful moments for us to receive multiple awards for both our architectural projects, but also our product designs. And which leads us to this, the Achanek cloth hanger. Was actually part of the Dutch Design Week also in 2020. Past 2 years, actually, the COVID years have been pretty productive for us, I have to admit. And I want to stay a little bit here because this was the first time that a product that came out of pure curiosity, playfulness even, or I have to say the need for something became a very practical idea and obviously a very innovative design. So it was winter time. I wanted to avoid stretching my favorite sweater. And, you know, always when you have a hanger, you either go all the way back or you stretch the neck to put a hanger in, which is kind of a funny, very, very problematic situation every time. But through something that came as a personal need, let's say, starting discovering ways that we could produce something really based again on natural materials, because I had this, if I might say, obsession of working with wood, something that is consisting of 2 sticks. Actually, you take apart one and the whole cloth is falling down. And what I want to highlight with that example is that the whole process of my studio is that we're really making what we need, which takes us to the next subject, the subject of today. It is a very personal topic. It is a very maybe sensitive, even taboo for some cultures topic. And it was even intense, I have to admit, when making the title of this presentation, it was even hard for me or really intense to see it written. But I think this, it's holding quite a lot of meaning because of the social construct. So, I would like today to talk about death and grief and how we're dealing with that, or how, in my personal case, how design was informed by my emotions and finally helped me to move to the next day. So grief, it is not only the reaction of losing somebody, but it's also this healthy process of finding mechanisms to cope with that. And in my case, it was, as Yelena shortly mentioned, it was 1.5 years ago I lost my grandma, but it is a very important person in my life. It's the woman with who I grew up with. And it was a crushing moment, as I guess it's nothing different that anybody that is going through this process feels. But it's all very personal in that kind of states. So I got crushed. My vital daily routines got completely disrupted, couldn't sleep, lost my... I'm not going to go through that. I think everybody that has been through that knows very well. But this didn't only make me question, like my own existence, but also made me question my mission as a professional. So I started questioning, how can I create homes for people where actually I just lost mine? And it was a very kind of, my core was shaken. Maybe it's because, I really, what I said before, care and listen. It's a very strong connection that I create every time we create with the clients. So these kind of fundamental questions kind of set the vibe. So I started questioning, what was home for me? And it was a very emotional period of time. Maybe I was also a little bit drunk and I let my emotions take over, but the first reply came really naturally, and it was the smell of the wet soil after the rain. And so the first reply, it was something connected to my senses. I really grew up in a village, walking barefoot. This is not just a fantasy, this is really my childhood. So every time it rains, I feel good, even though I'm Greek, so people would connect it maybe with the sun and beautiful weather. Home for me, it is this kind of atmosphere. Then I also realized that wherever I go can also be my own office. Candles are always there. For me, there is no separation of professional and personal space. It feels like this warmth or this passive company is really giving me a very safe, let's say, ground. And then I made the connection that it could be my grandma was religious or she was just a grandma, you know, she needs to believe somewhere. So we always had this kind of corner with the everlasting light. And I said, maybe it could be something from there. Whatever it is, I didn't know, but I said, this moment is really calming me down. Hugs, I think I don't need to talk more about that. I grew up in a very loving environment, so also this moment, the feeling of touching and sharing with others gives me a very strong feeling of belonging. And then money. I mean, who doesn't feel like home with money? I'm just kidding, but what I thought. So it was always a very playful moment, almost uncanny, or like an inner joke when it came to my childhood. My grandma was one of those people who really did hide money under the mattress. And whenever the grandkids were visiting, she was kind of creating a play. And always saying, yeah, I'm gonna come here, I wanna tell you something, wanna give you this, don't tell your parents, as if it was almost like a drug deal exchange, which actually was beautiful. So it didn't have to do with money, it was really this playfulness and the support, actually, that she was expressing in her own way. So this seemingly completely unconnected stuff made me feel grounded for a second. And through this whole process of transformation and actually being completely lost, I created those 4 objects and I translated just the senses that I just tried to communicate with you, ending up on those 4 products. What I'm calling the memory-scented soaps, the candles of rituals, hugging pillows, and the treasure boxes. And let me quickly go through them. So memory-scented soaps, as I told you already, I really needed a handful of soil, let's say, and to freshen up every morning my face and just close my eyes and maybe time travel. It's like a little bit of a daydream and seriously feel in a kind of habitual, on a ritualistic way, every morning this connection with a place that I felt like home. Second comes the concept of rituals. I told you already about the rituals. I'm also a very stressful person, so going through this process, it wasn't easy for me. And then I decided on creating a very simple, the most simple kind of candle or situation, a closed candle that I could create. It is just a 30-minute burning candle, and for me, the whole reason for that, it's nothing decorative, just giving myself the break or the time to find this kind of breath, to create some time for myself and think or not think or cry. That didn't matter what was it for, but I felt like I needed to create this little space in time. Hugging pillows, pretty straightforward, like with hugs. It was a very upsetting moment, or very sad, if I might say. The moment that I was trying to communicate sometimes with my closest people, and one close friend of mine said, "Did you hug yourself today? Have you ever hugged yourself?" And it was, I got shocked by how much love and attention and, bodily connection we have with our loved ones, and we never give this love back. As a moment just of, like a little bit of support or I don't know, a soft touch. So the hugging pillows became for me this They are made out of super soft fabric, only organic materials, and I just needed to use them in order to get this kind of passive hug back or to myself. And then the old piggy boxes, that they were no longer the piggy boxes, but they are the treasure boxes. But this time is not about money, or it could be. In my case, it wasn't. I use them as little vessels for my notes. So sometimes it was love notes to myself. Sometimes they were thoughts that I needed to communicate. Sometimes they were really dark thoughts that I didn't want to communicate with anybody else, but I wanted to vent. So it really became something that it was a very important aspect, a super funny, an inside joke with my grandma. It became a very vital moment of a sense of an inner communication. So those, again, seemingly unconnected objects were actually my survival kit by that time, but I didn't realize that I was actually creating a mechanism in order to cope with all this process of loss. And this takes us to the last part of this presentation. All the products and the byproducts of the products, they were really trying to nourish myself, to give myself the space and the time or even an action to take good care of myself that otherwise I didn't. It was not a memorial service. It was not about gathering possessions, you know, like holding up on your, I don't know, father's watch, because it reminds you of him, but it was mostly about honoring a relationship that brought me till here, but it was also, and most importantly, trying to make me feel good. Not trying, it was just an honest and conscious act of making me feel good. Subconsciously or unconsciously though, I was creating a very clear taxonomy of objects leading to actions that, as I told you before, actually helped me with this coping mechanism. And the symbolic objects that I just talked about, they were personally meaningful. They were playful, they were comforting, and they were daily without any particular design aspect or a process of how are they gonna look. They were really intuitive, and they were fully engaging or making me engage with my senses, while actually framing the memory of the person that I had and taking really good care of both my mind and soul and body. All those objects, though, they didn't act on their own. They created, let's say, daily habits. They created some, sort to say, rituals, these time-limited activities that made me feel, how to put it, in control. So in this chaos of overwhelming emotions that I was going through, this feeling of structure really helped me deal with that. And it was not only that, it was an actual interplay, not only between me and the object, but between me and myself, me and my emotions, sometimes me and the other person. So it was a non-verbal, but a very physical communication for a change. And this helped me channel my emotions in a different way, because it was really hard also for me to communicate at that time. And through that honest, simple communication between me and the environment, actually transformation happened in a second, if I have to be honest. The moment that I was feeling crushed to the moment of feeling like flooded with love and super happy, it was just an instant. So the moment I let myself vibe in with my emotions, it was the moment that my grief had immediately turned into happiness. Not happiness for losing the person, absolutely not. I'm still crying about it. But happiness for everything that we live together, and also happiness that through that I try to praise also the place that I am now. And so that's why taking it a little bit a step further and trying not to make a theory out of it, actually I was emotionally processing from a visceral place, dealing with emotions, trying to recreate the place that I felt like for the first time that I was belonging, to something behavioral. This didn't stay in a moment of, oh, how do I feel, what makes me feel? No, I needed to touch and feel and use some things in order to communicate that. And this made me feel so good, it made me feel so complete that we're reaching now, maybe this presentation is about the reflective step of this process, that I want to communicate it with other people. It's not about the objects that I created, it's about opening up this subject. And maybe sharing sometimes can be more important than the objects themselves. So yeah, that's the reason of this presentation. It is a very personal story, but the aim for that is maybe we could help each other, and by this self-tailored mechanism, maybe somebody else could come up with their own ideas. Honestly, I have to admit, my therapist got help just by the narration of the story. Multiple people started getting gifts in this kind of weird situation that you don't even want to talk about. So this gave me quite a lot of courage to be here today and start openly discussing about these objects, that they are not beautiful or handcrafted, because they're all that. They are handcrafted, they are made out of surplus material with local makers. But I'm not going to go into that. It is sharing. And it's not only about sharing, it is about, if we could destigmatize, and it's not only about grief. There are all these sensitive topics that they are holding such an emotional value, but I feel we cannot make a shift in our society by keeping them behind closed doors. So I feel that there's going to be a huge value just by sharing. It's going to be a huge value and maybe, yeah, even a catalyst for growth, both personally, but also collectively in our mental health, especially when dealing with these subjects of grief and death. And as Sarah Watson quotes in Headspace, some of our greatest cultural riches are byproducts of grief. For example, the pyramids at Giza, they are tombs, actually. So from a safe distance, we appreciate and we admire. But what does it happen when it hits our door? That is it for today, and I would be really happy to hear your questions or remarks or your personal stories. All covered? Very good.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said at the end that you didn't want to, thank you for the whole story, very deep
Thank you.
observations and
Yeah.
things. Really, really nice.
Yeah, I'm just hanging around because otherwise it's not audible for
Okay.
the
good like this?
recording. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. At the end you said about the process of making the things.
Yeah.
You didn't want to go into that.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that we hear the story, we see the first observations
Yeah.
of what is grief and what is home, and then we see the products that you made. But there's quite a lot happening
Absolutely.
until you get there.
Absolutely. It was a very beautiful and deep process again, because as I told you, it was not about me designing. In order to communicate an emotion and sense, you need to work together with people that they are gonna not only buy your story, but delve into that and try to make this thing that actually is recreating your own memory. So it was a very, very creative but also awkward situation, I have to admit. So I was lucky enough to get connected accidentally, like just by searching. People were found, local makers in Amsterdam and up north in Friesland, that we work closely together in order to create all this sense, create all actually the story. So it's not about the products, it's about the process. And yes, it was extremely personal actually. But I was lucky enough to get connected with those people and really transmit my emotions into, I don't know, everyday use products. Yeah. So about the products themselves, not the materials, because this was also very important for me. I mentioned it a little bit in the beginning through the architectural practice, obsessively almost in need of working with natural materials. But in that case, maybe it was, or it could be, a step deeper. Maybe I needed to reconnect with the earth, right? So I was a very hard client, let's say, to my makers, asking for only natural materials, only handmade. Everything that we used was either certified organic, hand-picked, or surplus material, meaning the wooden boxes, the treasure boxes, were from my carpenter. From his workshop, we made everything together, and they were the little pieces that you would normally throw away. We pulled them together, and then we created these weird shapes, or not weird, super simple actually, but different shapes of what we had at hand. Same thing with the ceramics, only reclaimed clay, so it was not buying and creating a product. It was actually the feeling that I needed to help myself or serve my story. I needed to see also in a kind of a feeling way. So that's why how all the materials were selected or made or sewn together. I don't know if I'm covering your question.
More than that.
Okay, happy to hear that.
But all of the people that were involved in the process, did they also connect to your story in
Deeply.
In what way?
Deeply, maybe just in a, no, I wouldn't say just, because an emotional connection, especially when working with, yeah, actually, I was a client, right? If you think about that. But it wasn't like that. It really felt like it was a teamwork that everybody was helping each other to express. So we are still working together, really happy with the outcome, but it has created a relationship rather than let's make some products or what's going to be the next. It's really beautiful to see how actually when we're openly expressing what is the story or what we need to do, you're creating relationships, really deep relationships rather than, customer relationships. So yeah, we're still, we have become friends with most of them, which I guess is a success. Yeah.
The brief is never finished.
No, and never gonna be fully processed, but we can make it light or not light sometimes, so it is not a story that can end. And what I want to share with that moment of mine, or objects of mine, is that they just helped me. They helped me just move to the next day. This doesn't mean that I'm not feeling lost. Doesn't mean that I have all the answers. Absolutely not. Or I'm not still missing the person and I don't know what to do sometimes. But it helped me focus on what was fulfilling me, which was that story, which was that person, and maybe give some of that back to other people just by narrating a story.
It's also a lot of love for the grief itself.
A lot. Thanks for mentioning that. I didn't want to make a proper presentation talking about love, but it's all about that. It's all about that. And when I try to write or present it, I just say it's not a story of loss, it's a story of love. And this doesn't it's not concentrated also only on me and that person, but it can be emitted. Yeah.
It's not about persons.
It is not. Can be anything. Indeed.
Very interesting.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. You see, it's still a taboo topic.
What would your advice be to non-designers dealing with grief?
You know, honestly, I don't think it's about designers and not designers. And while preparing that presentation and standing here from a professional role of an architect, I have to say it had nothing to do with design, if I'm honest, or in my head, because as I showed in the pre. Oh,
Is it on?
Maybe not. Yes. Okay, read it. It doesn't matter.
I'll go back for you.
And some things we're doing because we are, it's said that the behavioral part that is influenced by experience, it is influenced by your, is it working now? Ah, yes. It's influenced by training, so even though I didn't want to design those things, obviously all these years of, practicing as a designer, as an architect, is going to come out like that. Maybe if I was, I don't know, working in another field, it could be coming out in another creative way. So it is influenced. But the thing is, it was not about design. Design maybe subconsciously was not maybe, obviously, it was the vehicle to help me express it in a very tangible way, in a very simple way. But so it doesn't have to do about designers or non-designers. I think, and it's also very personal, and you need to be maybe emotional ready to let yourself go, yourself, not the missing person, the lost person. So when you are emotionally ready, just, I don't know, maybe zone in with your feelings and let this be. And if something next to you can help you, just, use the opportunity. For example, what I mentioned before, it was funny or not funny, but I was having this discussion with my therapist, talking about other stuff, and then I told her about those objects. And I super shortly explained the story, and her mind got stuck at the sense. She has also lost her grandma at that time, and she couldn't let go. And she said, "Thank you for that. I'm going to hang up now. I really want to I really want to get back to my own place and think of all these scents and smells that make me feel happy and connected with her." So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to do anything with design or designers. It's about the feelings. And yeah, maybe if we just discuss about those things, we can get some helpful ideas from each other.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
These are really objects of focus. And they give you the opportunity to teach yourself at a point.
Absolutely. And honestly, still using them, just took off they're fantastic. They're also really beautiful to just see and touch, right? They are just beautiful objects. I'm going to go back so that you see that they are beautiful objects. Here. It's a little bit, but the colors are a little bit burnt, but it's about dealing with your own life. So as I told you, I'm a very stressful person, so it has nothing to do with my trauma. It helps me to take this little break. So it's becoming a part of the daily habits. What I talked about didn't have to do only about that period. It's really helpful to connect and refine your own balance, stable ground, if you might, to move on. And maybe that's why I called it self-transformation, to really find a new version of yourself that it might be, I don't know, happier, more complete, or it's again a process, what you said. But we're not getting there. We are evolving. It is, definitely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Anouk.
I suggest we sort of carry on talking about it in a more informal setting. You're welcome to go and get a drink at the bar. We'll provide some snacks. So yeah, this is the last Innovation Café before the summer holidays. We'll be back in September with a collaboration with Dutch Design Foundation. For tonight, so the drinks are still on. We can also still offer a dinner. It will be aubergine parmigiano this evening. I will ask all of you later if you're interested in staying. Please bring your glasses with you back to the bar if you have one with you. But for now, thank you for being here. Have a nice evening, and hopefully I'll see you after the summer break.
Thank you.